What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Jerome, and I'm here today with a review for How to Get Away from Murder. This is season number 5. This is episode 7, and this episode was titled I Got Played. So without further ado, let's get started with the video. All right, so this episode, it opens up and we see Annalise. She's in her bed and her room is kind of distraught and everything. And then, her phone starts to ring and it's Bonnie. So then we also see, who do we see? She goes to, I guess it's like this press conference briefing where they're talking about little Nate's death and trying to tell the recollections of what happened, the night that he died. So according to the medical examiner, supposedly when he was being transported to the facility that he was going to, he had the letter that he wrote to the victim's family, and he had a pencil in his hand, and then he stabbed the female guard in her leg, and then the other guard, he shot him in the head, which killed him. And then they're also trying to say that he was off of his medication, so that was the reason why I guess they're trying to say that he was manic, and therefore, that's the reason why he went through what he went through. And basically, they're saying that there was no witnesses there and the cameras malfunctioned, supposedly. Like, how coincidental is that? That only 2 guards are there who can witness this, and there are 3 witnesses there. 2 of them are still living and 1 of them is dead. Like, really? And then the cameras didn't work. Like, you expect people to believe that bullshit? Like, that is crazy. So basically, the medical examiner is saying that there's no foul play in his death, and I'm like, oh my god, are you guys serious? Like, really? Like, that doesn't sound sketchy at all to you that there are 3 people who can witness to this, but 2 of them are living and 1 of them happens to be dead, and again, no camera footage. So then you have you had Asher, Bonnie, and Miller watching this, because Miller was telling Bonnie that Big Nate would be back to work that week. And then you had Michaela, Connor, and Oliver watching it as well, and they're talking about it's a cover-up, which absolutely is a cover-up. And then you had Emmett, he's watching it, and Emmett is also calling bullshit on it, and I'm like, that is complete and total bullshit. Like, really? Y'all want people to believe that this man was off of his medication and he attacked the 2 guards when, he was getting ready to get out of prison, and he's gonna mess that up for what? All right, so then we have these 2 separate scenes where we have Annalise. She goes over to the governor's office and she's asking the governor to do an inquest because she believes that this whole situation with little Nate's death is a cover-up, but the governor is not, wanting to do an inquest. And then we have we have Nate, Big Nate. He's at Miller's office, and he's also asking Miller to do the same thing, request an inquest. And, Miller's like, but he stabbed the guard. And then, Big Nate is like, well, of course they're going to say that he did that, because when they say that they went for their gun, that's a way of them covering their own asses. And then, Miller, he goes outside of his office and he's telling Bonnie that he's going to do the inquest. And Bonnie is trying to talk Miller out of doing the inquest. And, she's telling him how she's trying to protect him. But Miller is still going to go ahead and do this inquest for Nate. All right, so then we have Connor and Oliver. They are going to this church to, I guess this is where they're going to get married at. And the priest there, she's just asking them questions about why they want to get married at the church. And, they're telling her because, they're so open to doing a gay wedding. And then, she's telling, Connor's telling her how they talking about how this is for Oliver's mom. And then also it's because Connor loves Oliver, which I could do without that scene, to be honest with you. All right, so then we have the kids. They are working on helping Annalise with this inquest. And, they're trying to figure out how they can help impact the hearing. So Oliver, he comes in, he wants to go out and have a good time, have a good time and forget how depressing the world is. And then, New West shows up, and Michaela is still confused as to how New West and Asher live by one another, and Laura's still confused as to how they're even friends with one another. So then we had this scene where the kids do go out, and they try to enjoy the night, and Michaela's saying they can go to work for the governor, but Asher's like, you must don't know, Annalise does not work for the governor anymore. And then Connor and Oliver, we see them, they leave the club, and they are kissing each other, and then there's this homophobic guy that walks by and tells them, you faggots need to get a room. And Connor asks him, what did you say? Why don't you say that to my face? And then the man comes up to him and tells him, called him a faggot again, and then Connor punches him, and then those two start fighting in the street. So this explains why Connor, when we saw him earlier this season at the reception with his face all beat up and scarred up, it was because of this fight. So then we see Michaela and Asher, they are together, and I'm like, ugh. So Michaela leaves Asher, and she goes and knocks on New West's door, and she basically tells New West, I just put a drunk Asher to sleep, so you're gonna have to go check on him. So then New West invites Michaela in, and he shows her a picture of them in the courtroom, and he says, don't we look good together? So basically he's trying to get Michaela to come to the wedding with him, and Michaela's like, why are you trying to get me to come to the wedding with you? And Asher, he wasn't as drunk as Michaela thought he was, because he was outside actually listening to the conversation with her and New West. So then New West is trying to have sex with Michaela. She was like, I'm abstinent. And he's like, what does that mean? Basically, it means that the bitch is weak, because they start kissing, and I'm pretty sure Michaela's going to end up having sex with him. And then, we move over back to Connor and Oliver from that fight. So they're in the bathroom, and basically Oliver's just cleaning up Connor's face, and Connor's telling him to tell his mother that he fell off a scooter or something, just to deter her from what really happened. All right, so then we had this scene where Annalise, she goes over to the governor's office to talk to the governor, and the governor is basically telling Annalise that she's not going to be able to move forward with this fair defense project because of little Nate's case, little Nate, and this inquest that's going on and how badly it's going. And basically, that woman ain't doing nothing but trying to blow smoke up Annalise's ass. And luckily enough, Annalise is not falling for her bullshit. So then the governor, Annalise basically calls the governor out on her bullshit. And, she's saying that she, ordered the kill on little Nate, which we all know that the governor did that. It's just a matter of proving the fact that the bitch did it. And in due time, Annalise will prove that that bitch was behind it. So then the governor is like, you know what? We did a background check on you. We do a background check on everyone that comes to work for us. And she's telling Annalise that she found information about her adoption. And I'm like, adoption? And was Annalise adopted by somebody? Or what kind of adoption? Because I was mad confused. So then we had this thing where Bonnie is with Annalise. And, she's asking Annalise how things went with the governor. And Annalise is telling her. And, Bonnie's just telling Annalise, I'm just worried about you. And she says she's worried that she's drinking again. And then Annalise gets all mad and defensive, talking about she's not drinking. So then Bonnie goes over to the trash can, and she takes the trash bag out of the trash can. And at the bottom of the trash can, there were bottles of vodka. And she takes the vodka out the trash can. And Annalise doesn't have anything to say at this point. So Annalise tells Bonnie that the governor knows about the adoption. And I'm like, again, what adoption what are we missing? So then, Bonnie tells her, what, have a drink. And then we see her take Annalise and put her in the bed. And, Frank calls. And, Frank calls and Bonnie tells him that she was drinking again. So then the next morning, Bonnie is gone, and she's left a note about AA on the nightstand. And then Annalise gets a phone call from Miller, and basically Miller wants to put Annalise on the stand. So then he does put her on the stand. So while she's on the stand, he's questioning her about, little Nate. So Annalise, instead of answering directly to Miller, she faces the jury, and she's addressing the jurors. And the judge is telling Annalise, stop addressing the jurors. But again, Annalise kept going. And basically what it is that Annalise was saying is, this is a case of racism where, it's the white woman that's supposedly afraid of the big black man, and she kills him. So that's what Annalise was saying to the juror. And then eventually the judges got to the point where he was like, listen, get her out of my courtroom. And he told the juror, don't listen to what she's saying, strike that from the record. So then, we see that the jurors have come to a decision, come to a verdict. So the verdict was they basically agreed with what the medical examiner said. There was nothing, no foul play with this, that, he was off his medication, and that's the reason why what happened to little Nate. And I'm like, again, that is complete and total bullshit. So then we see Big Nate, he's outside of the courtroom, and Michaela walks up to him and she tells him, if there's anything that I can do for you, let me know, and I'm here for you. All right, so then we had this thing where the kids are in class. Now they're talking about, Michaela is basically talking about how they can't go to Kaplan and Gold. And again, Michaela's love struck over Tegan, basically. And then, they're talking about working for the governor, and, basically how the governor can't do for them what Kaplan and Gold was going to do for them with the money that they were supposed to get from the class. And, while they're in class, they get a text message from Annalise basically telling them that class is canceled because Annalise is over there at the governor's office trying to talk to her. So then we go back to the class. Annalise is there this time, and now she's trying to get help from the kids about how to make this go away. So we get Laurel. She says with hers, she says, to get the judge to let Miller question her. And Annalise says, I've already tried that this morning and it didn't work, because she went to the judge and tried to get the judge to let Miller question her, but the judge struck it down because Miller struck that down. And then, Connor, he says that, try to figure out who the jurors are. And Annalise like, that's juror tampering. You want me to go to jail for that? He says, you don't have to do anything about it. So we see him. He goes over to Miller's office where Asher is, and they're trying to get into the files. And then Bonnie comes up and she was like, the password has been changed. So, they were like, we're trying to help Nate. She's like, no, you're trying to help Annalise. And if Annalise wants my help, tell Annalise she needs to answer my phone calls. So then we have back in the class, Michaela is giving her thing. And she's saying to introduce uncorroborated evidence. And, she's talking about how there's probably bad records on these two guards. And, Annalise is like, there's nothing on these two. And then, New West hops up and he's like, maybe it's not in their work life, but what about in their personal life? So Annalise is like, if you can find something, get it to me. So then we see Michaela. She is with Oliver and she's trying to find anything on the two guards. The one guard she wasn't able to find anything on, but then there was another one, the female guard. She found out that she was abusing her husband. So then we see Annalise. She goes over to Miller's office and she tells Miller to introduce this to the court. And Miller's like, how am I going to sit here and explain to them where I got this from? And then we do see Miller. He's in court. He has her on the witness stand, and she's answering Miller's questions. But then Miller introduces the evidence of the photo of her abused husband, and the juror says that, not the juror, but the witness says that her brother and her husband got into a fight, and he was like, pretty convenient, but why does the medical report say that he was the scratches on his face are from a ring, kind of like your engagement ring? So then the judge asked Miller, where did he get that information from? He said it was sent to him via courier anonymously. And the judge struck that down. So then, outside of the courtroom, Annalise is once again begging with Miller to put her on a stand. But Miller says he's not going to do it. So then Bonnie is actually outside of the courtroom. She wants to talk to Annalise, but Annalise completely struck Bonnie down and didn't want to talk to her. All right, so then we had this scene where Annalise, she is meeting up with Tegan, and she's telling Tegan basically how the governor played her. And, she wants to come back to Kaplan and Gold. But, Tegan's like, I just can't go to Emmett and just beg for your job back. She says, I know. I need you to try to get us some information on the case that he has against him with the firm. And, Tegan is like, so you're going to blackmail him? And, basically, in a sense, that's what she's planning to do. And when she was telling Annalise was telling Tegan that, the governor was behind Little Nate's death. Tegan was like, you really think that she did that? Like, she's was basically trying to tell her, you're reaching far and wide. So then, we see Tegan back in the office, and there's this guy there that Emmett had just finished interviewing. And, Tegan knew him from when she was doing her intern with another law firm. And she was basically telling Emmett, instead of you trying to hire him and you're trying to replace Annalise, why don't you just give it to me? And Emmett is like, he can't do that because of the partners. And basically the reason why he can't do that is because they still have not forgiven Tegan for the whole Antares thing. And she's like, I'm not the only person that was involved with that. And then, Emmett mentions his issues over there in London. And I'm like, okay, that's probably going to get Tegan on board with helping Annalise, I believe. Okay, so then we see this thing where Tegan, she goes to meet up with Annalise. And she does have information on Emmett. And, she's basically telling Annalise how she wants to bring the governor down. She doesn't want to, open up the newspaper and see another black person killed at the hands of a white cop. So then we see Annalise, she goes and talks to Emmett. Now, Annalise has completely changed her plan because, like I said earlier, Annalise was intending to blackmail him. But at this time, she's not going to blackmail him because, so you're going to blackmail me? She was like, no, because she's been through the same situation that he's been through with Sam. And she tells him, how Sam played the good boy for 20 years, and then his true colors finally start to show. So she basically tells Emmett that she'll do whatever she can to help him. So she'll do whatever she can to help him, but first he has to take her back. So then we see Annalise. She goes over to Nate's, and she's telling Nate that she got her job back at Kaplan and Gold. And she says that it was her fault about Little Nate. And he's like, what do you mean it's your fault? So she then tells him that, the governor played her basically, saying that she was going to get him released, but she never had any intentions of doing that. She was just doing that to use Annalise. And then, Nate tells her, you know what, you're not in this alone. I'm working with you. We're going to bring that bitch down. All right, so now I'm going to move over to New West. So we had this scene where New West was in his apartment. And then we see Laurel, she was watching him, and Frank is with Laurel as well. So basically, Laurel is just adamant that Frank tells Annalise who Gabriel is. And, Frank is saying that Gabriel is Annalise's worst nightmare. So then Laurel, mentions the whole shit that she did last year and how, she almost lost Chris. And because of Annalise, she has her son. So, I guess, she's trying to rectify what she did last year. But, I think Laurel is just going a little too hard. And I think this might backfire and blow up in Laurel's face. And then we also saw this scene where New West is in his apartment. And he's on his computer. And he's infatuated with Michaela. So, he's looking at photos of Michaela. And then, we see Frank. Frank is looking in the at the camera footage that he has of New West. And then we did see where Frank called Annalise, and Bonnie answered the phone, and Bonnie told Frank that Annalise was once again drinking, which I already mentioned that. So back to so Laurel and Frank are still together talking about New West. So once before, after the class, Laurel was telling Frank that she feels like New West is obsessed with Michaela, and at this point we see that they're still watching them, and this is where Michaela and New West were together in his apartment, and they were getting ready to have sex. And I'm like, ew, are y'all actually gonna sit there and watch them fuck? So Laura's like, if you don't tell Annalise who he is, I'm gonna tell her. And then Bonnie comes in there, and she was like, said, tell her what? And then we flash to the night of the wedding reception, and we see Bonnie in the snow, and she's killing whoever the hell she's killing. And there's somebody in the bushes, and she tells them take his car and take him, and go as far away as you can and drive far away, and we'll reconvene and try to come up with something later. And I'm like, so it's a he that's dead. So I'm thinking between New West or Frank. Those are the only two people that I can think of right now. And so the people that I'm thinking of: Frank, New West, Oliver, and Nate. Those are the only he's that I'm coming up with right about now. But that was that was How to Get Away with Murder. Next week is going to be the winter finale. Like the video, leave your comments, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys later.